Hello everyone, welcome to Planet Geology. So UPSC Civil Services Examination concluded last week, and in this video we will discuss the Geology Optional paper which was part of the Civil Services Examination. We'll discuss if the paper was difficult, easy, or like it was somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. We will discuss those questions one by one, and we'll have two parts to this video. In the first part, we'll go through paper 1, and in the second part we'll go through paper 2. So we'll discuss paper 1, the part 1, section A and section B as part of paper 1. But before we go to that, I would just like to point out that we have a crash course running for this year's Forest Services Examination. We have a geology optional crash course that is designed to be finished in 50 days. We also have a forestry optional course, and we have a combo course also where you can choose both of these at a discounted price. I would also like to highlight some of the great achievements, great strides that we have made over the last few years. So for example, if you look at our results from 2021 all the way to 2023, so we have been consistently improving the results. So we started out 2021 with 18 students out of top 50. Then 2026 was like more than 50% of the students that got into our top 50 were planet geology students. And overall, like in the last year, we got like over 42 selections in the Indian Forest Services Examination. So we have been improving every year. Our results speak for themselves. So if you are looking for geology optional course, whether it is a comprehensive course, we also have that running. Please do check the links in the description below, whether you're interested in the comprehensive course or the crash course for this year's Forest Services Examination. Okay. So without any further delay, I will start with the paper analysis for this year. Now, you can see here I have the question paper here. So what I'll be doing in this video is I'll be dividing the questions, or like I'll be ranking questions, or I'll be scoring questions, I should say, based on the difficulty level. Okay, so I'll score them from 1 to 5. Okay, so with increasing difficulty towards this side. Okay, so 1 is the easiest question, 5 is the most difficult. So what kind of question would line up in 1? It is a straightforward question. Maybe it has been asked in the previous years also. It is directly mentioned in the syllabus. So for example, if you get a question on meteorites, types of plate boundaries, those kind of questions. Okay, metamorphic facies, just write a note on metamorphic facies. So those kind of questions will come under category 1. Now sometimes it can be an easy question, but the wording of the question can be slightly difficult. Okay, so once you understand the question, you are able to write everything. So those kind of questions will fall under category 2. Category 5 is a question where like most students will fail to even attempt that question. Okay, if by chance someone is doing PhD in some topic and just by luck the same question came and he or she was able to write that question, that will fall under category 5. It's not like none of the students can solve it, but you will have to be lucky like to be able to solve it, that just by chance you kind of like read that topic and it came in the exam. So there are some bouncer questions like that usually come in exams. 4 will be again difficult question, very hard to attempt, but it is at least from a topic you have heard of, so you can write something in there. Okay, and 3 is somewhere in between, like it's not very straightforward, but it's not very difficult as well. So we'll rank questions like this, and then we'll try to use individual question rankings to come up with the ranking for the whole paper. Okay, all right. So those who are not aware of the paper pattern, let's just like first of all go through the paper pattern in general. So you have here paper 1. Okay, so question 1 and question number 5, which is basically the first question within section B, these questions are mandatory. Okay, you have to attempt them, there is no choice. So if a difficult question comes in the mandatory part, that kind of like raises the difficulty level of the whole paper. Just the fact that a bouncer question, a very difficult question came in a paper, it does not necessarily make the whole paper difficult, because in this question paper you have choice. Okay, so you can choose which question you want to answer. Now if you can leave a difficult question, okay, if it is in choice, then even if it's a very very difficult question but everything else is very very easy, the whole paper will be very easy. Okay, whereas if the same question appears in the compulsory part, that will make it difficult, even though it comes as a 10 marker instead of a 20 marker where you have choice. Okay, and even in choice, if let's say two difficult questions occurred together, that kind of like makes the paper easier, because then you can leave the whole question. I'll show you why. Because let's say this 6 question, so once you attempt 6 question, you have to attempt all 3 parts A, B, C. Okay, if let's say in this whole paper 2 questions are difficult, one of the questions appears in 6A, difficult question, and 7A is difficult, what will happen in that case? So in that case you can maybe leave one, or sometimes like you can leave 2 also. Let's say you have to leave just one question out of these. Okay, so you will have to attempt one, but if both those difficult questions occur as part of 6 only, you can just like not attempt 6 question altogether. In total you have to attempt 5 questions. So question number 1 and question number 5 are compulsory, so you are left with 3 more. So from 2, 3 and 4 you have to attempt at least 2. Okay, or sorry, you have to attempt at least 1. Maximum you can attempt is 2. Okay, so it's not that you can leave all these questions and attempt all 3 from section B or vice versa. Okay, you have to attempt at least 1 choice question from either section A or section B. So you'll be attempting 1 question from either section A or section B, and you'll be attempting 2 questions from the other section other than the section from which you attempted 1 question. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind to analyze if the paper was difficult or easy, and I'll try to score them, and I'll give you my reasons why I'm scoring them the way I am. Okay, all right, let's get into it. So the question number 1, okay, discuss 2 widely accepted theories of the origin of Earth, elucidate the position of all the planets within solar system, and write the important facts of the Earth. This is a straightforward question. Okay, even if you have studied just general geology, or let's say not even general geology, you have studied just general studies, you can still answer this question, you can still attempt this question. This question is very very attemptable, and this is the very very first topic that we teach as part of general geology course. Okay, so how many marks in terms of difficulty will I give it? I would have given it 1. Okay, if they did not ask 2 widely accepted theories, they asked just like the most accepted. Usually it is just like 1 accepted theory, you can split it into 2 parts, so it becomes like 2 theories. For example, the student who attempted this, he correctly identified that the most accepted will be nebular, and the second one is planetesimal theory. Okay, we will not go into details of those. They are like interrelated to each other. That's what you have to write over here in this question. There are like many theories of the origin of Earth, which is basically the same as origin of solar system. We study these 2 together. Okay, Earth came into existence along with the solar system. So it's an easy part. I would have given it 1, but as I said, because it asked 2, and sometimes students can get confused like what is the second one you have to write, so it becomes like slightly dicing. So I will give you in terms of difficulty 2, so it is still within easy category. 3 will be intermediate, 1 is extremely easy, 5 is extremely hard, and 4 will be hard question. Okay, and 3 is intermediate. All right, so general geology question, I'll write the subject also, general geology. Okay, difficulty 2. What are planar and linear structures of rock? Discuss the genesis of Budins. Okay, this question, I would say again, the first part is very very easy, linear and planar structure of earth of rock. So you can write about, for example, LS tectonites or overall general linear and planar fabric. We have done so much in the PYQs. This can be considered part of structural or part of even metamorphic. So we study this in 2 subjects. So you have to write about lineation, foliation, and their types in this question. Okay, and just briefly discuss them. So the first part I would say is like, in terms of easy category, it is like one, easy to discuss. Okay, discuss the genesis of buddins. Okay, so buddins, like, it's a very simple concept that you have competent and incompetent rocks, and competent means which are hard, difficult to deform, and surrounded by incompetent means kind of like ductile, easy to flow, easy to deform. So when you have extension, let's say you're stretching them, so these strong layers will break and the weak layers will flow in between them. Okay, so sometimes like students can get confused in this particular part. So this part, I wouldn't say like it's extremely hard. If you have gone through the course, you will understand this particular part. Maybe you can give the second part 3 marks. Together again, to this question I will give 2 marks in terms of ease. 2, like some can argue it is 2 or 3 depending on if you are able to answer the second part or not, but if you have gone through the course, you should be able to answer the second part. Okay, the third part, discuss applications of remote sensing in geology. This question also I'll give it like just 1 marks. It is super easy question. Even if you have not studied geology, you should still be able to answer this question. Okay, or what like application of remote sensing in geology. Okay, so the only tricky part here is like they have asked geology. Maybe I should change it to 2, because a lot of students may write, let's say, things like which are not directly related to geology, maybe forestry management and all those things, but you can write like those applications of remote sensing. It is at the very start, we basically study the applications. We study applications of GIS, we study applications of remote sensing. They are like quite related to one another. If you have prepared answer for one, your answer for another one is 80% prepared. Discuss the process of soil formation. Direct geomorphology question. There is a direct lecture on this. Even the name of the lecture is soil formation, soil and soil formation. So this question I will give marks 1. Question number 5, it is either 1 or 2 mark question. Not 1 or 2 marks, 1 or 2 score question in terms of easy or difficult. So it is like pretty easy question. Define dip of a rock bed. So basically it is the angle with respect to the horizontal that is made in a vertical plane. So there is a standard definition of this, of a line along the plane which is perpendicular to the strike. So there is a definition of dip and strike also. What is true dip and apparent dip? So true dip is perpendicular to strike, apparent dip is any other direction that is not perpendicular to strike. So very standard definitions, we cover them in the course. So this is like 1 mark question. It will be score 1. Find strike direction of a bed which dips 30 degree towards north. So it is dipping 30, the dip amount is 30 degree. Towards north 30 degree east. So that is a strike dip direction. So sometimes like student can get confused in this part, the strike direction of a bed, because just above they asked true dip and apparent dip, and sometimes they might ask you to calculate apparent dip from true dip or true dip from apparent dip, or calculate the apparent dip direction, strike direction, anything they can ask. But here that is itself a simple calculation, but at least there is a calculation. This one is very simple. What they asked, they've given you the dip, okay, and the dip direction. So it dips 30 degree northward. So it is something like this kind of a situation. Okay, so the dip is 30 degree towards north. So this is 30 degrees. 30 degrees the dip amount, and with respect to the north, it is also making 30 degree angle. So it is 30 degree north. So dip amount is 30 degree, and the dip direction is also 30 degree. So this is north 0 degrees. This is 180 degrees. Okay, maybe I should draw them with green color just to highlight that this is different. North 90 degrees, north 270 degrees. Now they asked you the strike direction. Okay, so from the right hand rule, so you have to keep your fingers like this. That will point towards the dip direction, and your thumb will be in the strike direction. Okay, so the strike direction will be 90 degree towards the dip direction, but it can be this direction or this direction. But from right hand rule, it has to be this direction only, because your thumb will point in that direction and your fingers will point in that direction. So you write about that this is being calculated from right hand rule. And So you go 90 degree in that direction. So you subtract 90 degree from north 30 degree. So you'll come to, after 30 degree moving towards counterclockwise, you'll come to north 0 degree and you'll have to move 60 degree further in that direction. So it becomes north minus 60 degrees, which is the same as north 300 degrees. Okay. Or you can write it as basically it is west and then 30 degrees towards north from west. Okay. Or you can write it is 300 degrees north. That will be your strike direction. Okay. Now, because sometimes students can get confused in this kind of question just with the wording, so I will not give it a 1, although all you have to do in this question is just subtract 60 degree. This dip amount is not even needed. Okay, useless to solve this question. All you have to do is take strike direction, subtract 90 degree from. So that part is very, very easy. The second part can get a little confusing. So I will, whenever numerical comes, like I know like half the students will still get it wrong, even though it is such an easy question. So that is why I will give it a score of 3 in terms of difficulty, intermediate. Okay, I could give it 2 or 3. Let's give it 3. Let's be a little bit conservative and say like this is a slightly more difficult question. But you can see in the first part itself, pretty easy, nothing very difficult. Okay, let's go to section number, or like we are still in section A. Let's go to question number 2. Discuss intensity and magnitude scales commonly used in assess seismic damage. So direct question from notes, copy paste you have to do. So this part is score 1, super easy. Write a note on global distribution pattern of Earth. It has been like repeated hundreds of times, figuratively, not literally. So, and direct, like in your syllabus question, distribution of earthquakes, global distribution of earthquakes. So direct syllabus copy paste. Okay, the topic. So that is why I'll give it 1. Mark the different seismic zones of India given on a map and discuss about them. 1. Okay, it is a 20 marker question. I know it is a little bit long, but it is also a 20 marker question. So you should be able to fill 3-4 pages on this one. So I will give it, overall this will have a score of 1. Okay, I forgot to mention and the subjects from which these were asked. So B question was from structural, C question was from remote sensing and geomorphology, D question was from remote sensing and geomorphology, and this was from structural. So from general geology they asked only 1 question in section A. Okay, and from structural there were 2, and from remote sensing and geomorphology there were 2 questions. Okay, so this question again is from general geology. Discuss in detail the ideas of geomorphic cycle proposed by Davies and Penck. So again, this is directly from the notes. Has been asked previously quite often. I will give it like, let's say just 2. I could have given it 1 also, but sometimes students get confused between like geomorphic cycle, is this cycle of erosion, all those things. So let's give it 2. Let's be a little conservative. Again, the subject is remote sensing and geomorphology. Okay, what do contours represent in a topo sheet? Now this is chapter 0 of structural geology. This is the very first thing that you study. How do contour lines help identify different geomorphic features of an area? So this will be kind of like valleys, ridges, rivers, hills, depressions, those kind of things. Okay, and you have to draw diagrams for those. So for example, valleys will be like this with V pointing upstream. A ridge will also be like this, but the elevations will increase in this direction. A hill will appear contours like this. A depression will also appear contours like this, but contours are increasing. The values are increasing in this direction for a hill. For a valley, they're increasing in this direction. So that is what you have to write. You can write hypothetical values over there. We have discussed this in the course. So should be super easy. Explain with neat diagrams. Oh, I can give this question mark 1, but because they asked geomorphic features and all, students can overthink this question and they may start to think, okay, what do I need to draw in this? I'll give it like 2 marks. I could have given it 1 as well. Discuss in detail with diagrams the landforms and features resulting from rivers, fluvial landforms. You can answer this question even if you are not a geology student, just from your general studies. geomorphology, geography preparation, you should be able to answer this question. I will give it marks 1. I should mention the subject here. This is structural. So you can see here the pattern. So 20 marker question from general geology, 15 marker from remote sensing and geomorphology, and 15 marker from structural geology. So there are 3 subjects in a given section. Okay, section A of paper 1 will have 3 subjects. So 1 question from each subject. So if you have just completely left one subject, that will not work in this. So some students may think like I'll completely leave one subject, because sometimes what they do is they will give all 3 questions from one subject, and you can take risk that okay, that question will be here, I will leave those questions, or I will attempt them. I have not prepared super great in this one, but I prepared something, so I may be able to answer, get some marks here, and here I will leave a question altogether. So for example, if you find paleontology difficult, and you can leave paleontology altogether, or in these cases, let's say you find structural geology very difficult, you leave structural geology altogether, thinking that all 3 questions will come from the, or all 3 parts will be in the same question of structural geology, so you can leave it altogether, but that will not work here. Okay, they're split. Okay, now go to the second part. Now you see we already got 20 marker in general geology. Now they have given 20 marker in geomorphology and remote sensing. And you'll also see this question is not from remote sensing. So we have got 15 and 20. Okay, 35 marks already from geomorphology, and 10 marks here, 45. Okay, and then 15 more from remote sensing. So I think this one was more heavy on the, we'll see like next question as well, and then we'll comment. Let's not comment too early. Characteristics of Indian remote sensing satellites. It is a copy paste answer from your notes. Okay, so I will give it 1. Okay, characteristics of IRS satellite series. It is mentioned in your syllabus, characteristics of IRS. It is there in the notes, directly asked, and also has been asked in PYQs. So there is no excuse in these kind of questions. If you cannot answer this question, you should not be appearing in the exam. Diagrammatically, so let me write again, remote sensing and geomorphology. Diagrammatically explain the formation of normal fault, strike slip fault, and thrust fault with the help of stress ellipsoid. Okay, so if you are not a planet geology student, maybe this will be a 2 or 3 mark. Okay, 2 or 3, not mark, 2 or 3 score in terms of difficulty. But if you are a planet geology student, it will be 1, because you'll find the direct answer in your PYQs. Now in the PYQs, they did not ask stress ellipsoid. Okay, they did not ask stress ellipsoid in the PYQs, but we did define the PYQ stress ellipsoid in the PYQs. Okay, so that is why, let's say, because I'm not specifically making this for just planet geology student, so I'll give this 2 marks. Okay, if you're a planet geology student, this is 1 marker. Okay, so because they asked you, you have to write about Anderson's theory of faulting. Okay, so which stress vector is vertical, whether it is sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, which of the principal stresses is vertical, that will decide whether you'll get normal, strike slip, or thrust fault. You have to draw diagrams of those faults, but you also have to draw stress ellipsoid. Okay, so that is something that they have specifically asked. So that is why it is very, very important to go through PYQs. Now, as I said, in PYQs, they did not ask this specifically, but here they asked. Okay, so again, if you are a planet geology student, it is a 2. It is a 1, otherwise it is a 2. It can also be a 3 if you're not a planet geology students, because sometimes you can get confused what to draw in a stress ellipsoid. Okay, so let's write the subject. It will be structural geology question. Okay, so in question number 3, you see again equally split, but here it's not like previous question where they were equally divided between these 3 subjects. Here you got 2 questions from remote sensing and geomorphology and 1 question from structural, and they skipped the general geology part altogether in this question. Okay, So again, slightly challenging. So we'll go through the next part, and likely the next part will probably lack the remote sensing and geomorphology part, and it should just be structural and general geology. Okay, let me show you this one. So for example, using neat sketches, describe types of faults in relation to orientation of stress axis. This is the same question that they asked in structural this year. They gave the names of the faults: strike slip, normal, reverse, and then they asked you to draw the stress ellipsoid. Okay, so you can see here when we discussed this in class, when I provided solutions to this, so I provided the stress ellipsoid, so these are drawn here. Okay, so these ones here, you see this, for example, which if sigma 1 is vertical, so this stress ellipsoid is also elongated towards the top. Okay, now in both the second case and third case, it is lying horizontal. And I also gave the stereo nets as well, so you can, if you write this way, you'll get maximum possible marks in that question. Okay, all right, let's go back to that one. Describe fold geometry, illustrate various types of folds on the basis of their symmetry. So this is a 20 marker question from structural geology. They have asked quite a bit. Describe fold geometry. So you have to describe hinge, you have to describe limbs, the inflection point, fold height, width, all those things. So there is a standard diagram, very standard answer. So this part itself is score 1. Illustrate various types of folds on the basis of their symmetry, orientation of axial plane, and trend of fold axis. Okay. So this one is fluties. This is one. And based on symmetry, it is also symmetric and asymmetric fault. So we have gone through those as well. So all these together combined, it is a 1 marker, I would say. Okay, maybe you can say 2 marker, but I would still say one score 1 only. The whole question, very simple question, and it is 20 marker question. Fluties classification, they have asked so many times in the past. I can even show you, like it will be somewhere in this only. We would have, these are PYQ solutions that we had provided, but it will be somewhere in this PYQ solutions itself. This was the fold geometry part, for example. Okay, describe morphology of folds. This time they asked geometry of the folds. And I'm 100% sure Fluties classification is, I'm going like very fast. This was about Boudin's. They asked about lineation, foliation also. So this one also we see, again we discussed this twice. Yeah, this one is Fluties. Okay, so orientation of axial plane, hinge line, exact question they asked this year. So repeat of PYQ, that is why I'm giving it score 1. Different types of plate boundary, explain the mechanism of plate motion. One has been repeated hundreds of times. Okay, figuratively again. At depth of compensation, the pressure generated by all overlying landmass substances on the earth is equal everywhere. Describe the hypothesis which supports this statement. You have to describe Aries. I would have given it 1 because Aries is very, very standard isostatic hypothesis. So you have to say it is isostasy and it is Aries hypothesis. Just because they did not directly ask, write a note on Aries. If they would have asked like that, it would have been score 1. But because they asked in reverse manner, let's give it score 2. But overall, it is an easy question. So you can see here in paper 1, like we did not get any difficult parts. Okay, there is nothing is difficult. There is just one which touched 3. There is no 4 or 5 in this part. Okay, so I would say you will at least attempt 2 questions from this part, from 2, 3 and 4. Let's go to section B. Okay, so section B, in terms of syllabus, it will be paleontology, stratigraphy, hydrogeology, and engineering geology. Okay, So define species, how paleontological species are different from biological species. uh, I will give it score 1, or let's say 2. Okay, species definition we have already gone through. Okay, what species are, and paleontological species, biological species, the difference, I can give it like score 1 as well, because that's what we study, like that's what we focus on when we go through the species concept. It is directly mentioned in the syllabus. uh, but like because they asked how paleontological species, actually I should maybe change it to just 1. Okay, so they're different because like modern day species, biological species are defined on their reproductive isolation. Paleontological species, because you can not observe the reproductive behavior of the fossils, so you have to rely on the morphology. So that's what like this different between them, like pretty simple concept. Geological parameters used to subdivide the Dharwad into 2 cratons. Okay, now I would say like Dharwad, if they asked directly Dharwad craton, it would have been an easy question. Now they asked you about geological parameters to divide the Dharwad craton. What exactly do we use? Now the geological parameters, is for example the close pit granite. Okay, um, you can write the stratigraphy, that is different. But like students can get confused in this part. Maybe they are looking for something else. Okay, uh, they are looking for the types of gneisses that occur, types of granites. So we'll not go, as I said before, we'll not go into the solutions right now, but we'll say like this question is not a straightforward question. They did not ask directly write a note on stratigraphy of Eastern Dharwad, Western Dharwad. But here it's not also a super hard that you cannot write anything here. You cannot attempt anything. You can at least write, even if you don't know anything about the geological parameters, that there is an Eastern Dharwad, there is Western Dharwad, they are divided. How they are divided? Is there a fault running that divides them? Is there a close pit granite that's running between them that is used to divide? You can write their stratigraphy, you can write their age. So there are so many things already, you can write it. So it will be a 3 or 4. Let's be conservative, let's give it a score 4. Okay, describe Cretaceous volcanic province in India. I don't know, like the student marked A and B, not C, like this you have to write simply Deccan basalts. Okay, the Cretaceous volcanic province. So if you know that particular part, if they directly asked Deccan basalts, I would give it score 1. But now because they did not ask directly, uh, at least you have to know like the Deccan basalts are of Cretaceous age, so I'll give it score 2. If you have read Deccan basalts, you will know like what they are asking. If you have not read Deccan basalts, then maybe you can get confused. But let's not give it score 1 because they did not ask directly. Describe how Darcy's law and Reynolds numbers are related to types of fluid flow in aquifers. Okay, so Darcy's law, you can define what is Darcy's law. It gives you volumetric flow rate. Okay, and then Reynolds number they asked. Reynolds numbers is rho Vd upon eta. Okay, rho is density. You can give its formula. Now then you can define turbulent flow, laminar flow. The Reynolds numbers ranges related to turbulent and laminar flow. Darcy's law is only applicable to laminar flow. It is not related to turbulent flow. So you have to discuss that. Now you can get a little bit confused. It is easy to relate Reynolds number to type of flow. Okay, it is basically decided based on Reynolds numbers whether the flow is laminar or turbulent or intermediate. So that part like is very very simple. Darcy's law is only related to laminar flow, so some students can get confused in that particular part. So that is why I will give it score 3. So you can see already this paper to this compulsory section is looking more difficult than section A, but it is not like super difficult. Describe rehabilitation measures required in landslide affected areas to restore community and ecology. Often repeated question. They always ask about landslides, causes of landslides, mitigation measures. So this is more like a 1 marker, or let's say because 2 marker. Okay, ecology they also asked this time around. So let's give it a 2. Okay, all right, now we'll go, let's see how they're divided in terms of subjects. Okay, so paleo, strati, or Indian geology. Cretaceous volcanic province of India, again stratigraphy question. Darcy's law and Reynolds number, hydro and engineering. Landslides, again engineering. This will be from the engineering geology part. That will be from hydro part. This question. Elucidate evolutionary trend in proboscidae elephants with example. Score 1. If you find it score 2 or 3, you should reassess your preparation. Direct in the syllabus, they have asked evolutionary trends of hominidae, proboscidae, and equidae. So they directly ask this question. So super simple. Describe lithostratigraphic classification and shift of depositional environments during Vindhyan supergroup. So lithostratigraphic classification is just like you have to give the stratigraphic table for Vindhyan supergroup. So this is one, Semri, Kaimur, Rewa, Bhandair, and then if you know the formation names, you can further subdivide those. Comment on age of Vindhyan succession. Yes, it is Proterozoic in age. Very, very simple question. You should know that just based on the chapter in which we studied Purana basins, you know what its age is. The shift in depositional environments. So this part is where students may find it a little bit tricky, I would say. But still, like, your clastics are deposited in what kind of environments, transitional marine, fluvial, whatever you have to write, okay. And then you have shallow marine environment where carbonates are deposited, so that part can be a slightly tricky. So I will give it a score of 2 overall. If that middle part was depositional environments, if they just asked depositional environment, I would have given it a 1, but they are asking about shift, so you have to write that particular part, okay. Describe the characteristics of different types of aquifers and discuss important properties that an aquifer should possess. So we have gone through this in the course, different types of aquifers, different types of springs, directly from the notes in the slides it is present. And properties an aquifer should possess, we already know that it should have transmissibility, it should have porosity, so it should be able to store water, okay, and it should be able to transmit water. Now they may be expecting some slightly more details, like for example, if the grains are well sorted, that kind of like rock will have more transmissivity, even if it has same porosity as a rock, let's say, which has poorly sorted grains or the grain size is finer, okay. Coarser grains will generally give you higher transmissibility. So because of that, I'll give it not a 1 but a 2. So very attemptable, 6th question, okay. And again, remember, from 6, 7 and 8, you see, like, paper 1 was so simple, you can actually leave 2 questions here, okay, not just 1. Merits and limitations of different methods of stratigraphic analysis in brief. Comment on most suitable method of stratigraphic analysis with justification. I will go through this later on. First, let's just go through 1, 2, and sorry, this 6th one. So it has paleo, strati, and hydro and engineering. Equal split. Stratigraphic analysis, so different methods. So lithostratigraphic analysis, biostratigraphic analysis, chronostratigraphic analysis, magnetostratigraphic analysis, sequence stratigraphic analysis. Comment on the most suitable method of stratigraphic analysis with justification. So each and every stratigraphic analysis has its own shortcomings, okay. The best kind of stratigraphic analysis is which relies not just on lithological character or biological character. It kind of like encompasses everything. So that would be kind of under, if you can do it, sequence stratigraphic analysis, okay. Because in that case, you have the time horizon, which is equivalent to in sequence stratigraphy of time horizons, in chronostratigraphy also you have time horizons. So even chronostratigraphic analysis will also be one of the most suitable methods of stratigraphic analysis, but it may not be suitable in all situations. Like from the practicality point of view, it is usually lithostratigraphy, biostratigraphy combined together gives you kind of like the best results. But I will not give it 1, Okay, I will give it more because they asked you so many analysis and most suitable. I don't know what they're exactly expecting, so I will give it a 4. Okay, it's not something that you cannot attempt. Okay, but they asked like so many different types, and they asked about the merits and limitations of each of those. How do you do that? So for example, lithostratigraphy is very simple. You can go to the field, you can observe the rock type, and you can just visually correlate their characters. So it is easy to correlate. It can be applied to not just uh, let's say visible outcrops, but it can also be applied to, let's say, boreholes, okay, in which you may observe different types of rocks. It requires less expertise, but more advanced methods like biostratigraphy will require more expertise. Chronostratigraphy, based on magnetic data, those will be even harder. They may require radioactive dating. So those will be, for example, some of the demerits of those. But again, they are more accurate. Okay, same lithology, for example, sandstone can occur in Precambrian rocks. It can occur in modern day rocks as well. So that's something that you have to write. So it will be either a 3 or a 4. It's not a 5. It's not like you cannot attempt it. So let's be conservative and give it a 4. It wouldn't matter because, as I said, you can leave one of these questions. Okay. Describe in brief various types of organic walled microfossils. So microfossils which have organic walled, a whole table is given to you, different types of microfossils. Some of them are calcareous, some of them have silica wall, some of them have organic walled, some of them are agglutinate when they just pick up grains from the sea floor and attach it to their body. So you have to discuss those, biostratigraphy and paleogeographic significance. So it is a slightly difficult question. Let's give it 4 because you can skip this question. Describe types of geological investigation required before construction of a highway in Himalaya. So this is, you can write like even from just general study standpoint. Um, Himalaya is a technically active region, and we have seen those in engineering geology. For example, how you will cut a rocks. Let's say if the beds are dipping like this, so it is more likely to fail. You will not try to build a highway in this situation. Whereas if a hill slope is like this, and the layers, stratigraphic layers are like this, yes, this is a more favorable situation for building a highway. So these kind of things you have to write over here. You have to look at the rock quality, for example. Okay, so you can write about rock quality designation, RQD, for slope analysis. So that's what you have to write in this question. So this is a 3 marker. So you see overall like 7 marker. Question number 7 is slightly difficult, but you can leave it in the exam. So presence of these difficult questions in this paper does not make it difficult. Okay, and the good thing is all of them are within the same question. Okay. 8, question number 8. Explain the concept of drainage basin morphometry. How do morphometric parameters influence the groundwater conditions of an area? Drainage basin morphometry, direct question. We have studied it in the class. It is mentioned in the syllabus directly. And how do these parameters influence groundwater conditions? So we have seen, for example, if permeability is higher, the frequency will be higher. Okay, drainage frequency. So those kind of things you have to write here. Maybe not exactly straightforward, but let's say give it 2. Discuss various modes of preservation of fossils. That is a 1. That's the first thing that you study in paleontology. Discuss evolution of Himalaya. Again, if you have studied the notes, and this question has been asked in the past, directly mentioned in the syllabus with the exact wording, evolution of Himalaya. So no questions on this part. Like if you think it is a 2 marker, you need to revise again. Okay. Let's give subject names again. Discuss the merits and limitations of different methods of stratigraphic analysis in brief. Comment on the most suitable method of stratigraphic analysis with justification. We give it 4. Paleo, hydro and engineering. So again, equal split, unlike paper 1. Unlike section A. Concept of drainage, hydro and engineering. So this is the 20 marker from here. Paleo, strati. Okay. So this is the overall score. Okay, for all these questions. If you don't agree with anything, please do mention that in the comments below. Okay. And then we can have like a chat about why you think that way. Now what I would like to do is I would like to rate this whole paper in terms of difficulty. Okay, what it will get. So the way I have done it is each question over here, okay, I have split into different parts. Each of them have their own marks, and this is the score that we assign to them. Okay, so then I have like just multiplied difficulty with marks, because if it is a 20 marker question and it is difficult, that is going to have more impact than, let's say, if it is a 15 marker and difficult. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken basically a weighted average, okay, of difficulty. I could just take average of these difficulties also and say whatever the number is, that will still be 2 here, because they are of same marks, it doesn't really matter. But I've tried to take like weighted average here. So if it has more marks, it gets more weightage. Okay, that is why I have this difficulty into marks. This is overall difficulty 2. Okay, so all of these were, we assigned difficulty 2, and this was 1, this was 3. So they kind of like again became 2. Now over here in this question number 2, so they are of difficulty 2, 2. This one was difficulty 2, 1, but it is a 20 marker. So that should have slightly more weightage. So it should make this whole question a little bit easier. Let's say if you were to get a difficult question within 2, that was 20 marker, that should provide more impact. Okay. So this gets a rating of 1.6, and just like following the same strategy, this gets rating of score of 1, 1.3, 2.4, 1.6, 3.7, 1.4. So this was the difficult question number 7. Now to calculate total score, I did not just average these things over here. Okay. First of all, you'll notice they are all same marks, even though like question 1, question 2, 3, 4. So you can see here this is 50 marks, 50, 50, everything is 50. So you don't need to take weighted average, they are of same marks. So once you have these, you can directly average them. So how I averaged them is I picked the ones with the least, which were easiest. Okay. So I have to pick 1 and 5 because they are mandatory. Okay, so these are mandatory. Let's color them differently. Okay, so this 2, 2.4 we have to take, we don't have a choice here. So you take this into average. So I've taken, for example, the formula F2 and F10. So this I've taken, and then after that you have to take for example, you will pick this third one. This is the easiest one. Maybe you pick the fourth one. You pick the lowest one, 1.4 from this. Okay, you cannot pick all 3 from here. So that's how like you get to this average F, this one. Okay, we picked this one, we picked this one, we picked 16. This is must pick. And then the last one. Okay, so this gives you from a scale of 1 to 5 a difficulty of 1.62, where 1 we say is extremely easy, 5 is extremely difficult. Okay, 2 is easy. So it is, this paper is easier than easy. Okay, again, this is paper 1 geology optional. Okay, we have not yet gone through paper 2. So we'll go through paper 2 in another class. Also keep in mind, an easy paper does not necessarily always mean good news, because then most students can write like answers. It becomes hard to differentiate yourself. And always in the exam there is normalization. So after you have gone through the exam, there will be some normalization. Maybe my video is blocking this one, so I'll just like move it over here to show you all the final score. So you can view here. My video does not block it, but I think you would have seen the last section over here. Okay, so 1.62 is the final score. Okay, so easy paper. Again, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, if you don't agree with anything, please mention that in the comments. I will see you in the next video. To discuss the second paper. Until then, bye bye from my side, and see you all next time. Thank you all.